Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Rolka. Thank you for checking out my video. Questions from comments 51. One of my favorite segments is when I find questions amongst the comments on the channel and I get to talk about them here. I've got some really interesting questions about warming up and warming down and why do I change vowels in the exercises when I do. It is not random and it is not entirely down to tradition, but I will get to that in a moment. Thank you if you've chosen to subscribe, and a big, big thank you to my Patreon supporters. I truly appreciate the support. You keep this whole train chugging along, so thank you. I really, really appreciate the help. Questions from comments 51. Number 1. Is there a reason why you change vowels at the point you reverse direction in the scale, or is it just tradition? Could one change vowels on any note without losing anything? I change vowels in the exercises at a variety of times in order to either make it easier or make it slightly more challenging. Usually, I do it at the direction change at the top to try to encourage you to sing through both the turnaround and the vowel change at the same time. This is a good practice for our repertoire singing because too frequently we come to that high note in the song and we sort of not intentionally stop engaging once we get there, and we have to learn to keep the air moving through it. So it's a way of trying to reinforce and help with your repertoire singing in addition to just doing the vocalization. You could certainly change anywhere else in the scale. I would, however, suggest you be as consistent as you can in those changes, because the other thing that we are learning to do and that I am hoping to help with is our intention around changing. So we know where it's going to happen and we can adequately plan for that change as we approach the vowel. That anticipation that we bring to it is really, really helpful, and it's even more helpful when you're singing in the upper register of your voice. When you're singing high notes, you anticipate those vowel changes or the note that you're coming to, and it just makes it easier to stay engaged and to make sure that your voice is phonating effectively on those high notes. So that's the somewhat longer answer to that. There are a variety of reasons why I choose to put the vowel changes where I do. Generally speaking, it is to either make it easier if we're doing something where I want the challenge to be something else, like, for example, singing high notes, or to make it a little bit harder if I am trying to just gently coax you along in the exercise or in your technique. Really, really cool question. Thank you for that. That was really astute, very interesting. I find just doing the practice in the morning is a sure way to actually practice. I see a lot of times before I'm going to sing, I'm not warming up completely. It takes probably an hour, and usually I'm rushing for 20 minutes. Time isn't always there. I just love singing, but also want people to enjoy. Do you have any tips for shorter warm-ups that will get your voice ready? You could be more specific in what you're warming up. You haven't said whether or not you're choosing warm-ups that are specific to the songs that you are singing, but you are mentioning wanting other people to enjoy what it is you're singing, presumably. So rather than doing general warm-ups and general technical practices, you could choose a warm-up that specifically works on what it is you are working on in the song. So for example, let's just say you're singing a song that has, and I don't know much about this vocalist, I don't know who you are or what you're singing or anything like that, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say that the repertoire that you sing has a lot of notes that hover around the E above middle C. Now, and I'm kind of thinking about like a tenor or a baritone vocal. I guess it could really be anybody, but for the tenor and the baritone, that's going to be more noteworthy. They're going to want to be very effectively warmed up for that. Then choose warm-ups that specifically address that subject. That's why I keep on making warm-ups, why there's so many on the channel, because in theory, you could make a warm-up specific to any song. So identify in your repertoire what it is that is really going to be challenging or is repeated frequently in the warm-up, and then choose your warm-ups that address that. And that will probably bring the time down. The other thing that you can do that will help with the length of warm-up required for your voice is make sure that you warm up or do a daily vocal practice. Do it every day. If you are warming up and practicing every day, your warm-up times will generally come down. Thinking about myself, when I'm in the process of recording vocals for a song or an album that I'm working on, then my warm-up times typically come down greatly on a day-to-day basis because I'm singing so much. So those are some thoughts for you, and I do hope that helps. Again, really cool question. Number 3. Jeff, I definitely need to practice more. I thought after obtaining certain ways to sing, it just sticks. That's not the case. I'm going to continue with my drive in and hopefully squeeze more time in. I really appreciate you and your videos. I always mention you and just hope to make you proud. I've come a ways, but I definitely have to practice every day or my voice knows it. The viewer will know too. I guess it's wanting something so bad you put in the hard work. Discipline isn't always easy. That's not so much a question as just a really great reminder to all of us that discipline can be challenging, but ultimately it is that desire to sing better and better that I think is worth focusing on, and hopefully will keep us inspired to keep on practicing, keep on working towards our goals. I'm not sure if I understood this entirely, but if you are primarily practicing while you're driving, 1, be careful. 2, see if you can find time away from when you're driving in order to practice as well. Because if you're driving, I would argue that your main focus should be on driving. And if you are only secondarily focused on your singing, then you're going to be missing out. You're not going to have as effective a practice session. If it's the only time you can find time to vocalize, well, I guess that is what it is. But if you can find time away, any amount of time away, when you are wholly focused on your singing practice, that would also help a lot too. More than anything else, I wish you the absolute best on your vocal practice, on your vocal journey, and I hope that you continue to practice and get better and better. And by what you are already saying, 1, you don't have to make me proud. You just have to make yourself satisfied in your own practice. I already admire what you are doing, your practice and your discipline, and wish you all the best and hope that you will keep on going. Thank you for that. Number 4. I've always wanted to know why certain vowels are more difficult than others for each individual. Certain vowel sounds are different for all of us because of where and when we might learn to articulate these vowel sounds. So, as someone who grew up in the Midwest of the United States of America, I have certain speech patterns and predispositions towards the ways that I speak and consequently began singing the cardinal vowels, E, A, A, O, and U, and how I use my voice in general because of the people around me. Where you grew up, when you learned to speak those vowel sounds, and how you learned to speak them will dramatically impact how you use your voice. Now, the practice of singing is one of reconciling those regional differences and reconciling the differences between the various vowel sounds. Mary Spender actually did a really great video on why she doesn't always sound British while she is singing. And I think she said it very eloquently, that the practice of practicing your singing mitigates those regional differences. Where you begin, however, will present certain challenges and sometimes advantages to that practice, but that is the answer to your question. We all kind of come to these vowels in our own ways, and so they will challenge us or give us advantages in certain ways, depending on how that all happened. Great question. I know I always say great question after like every question, but I do so enjoy this. So thanks for that. Great question. Number 5. Hi, Jeff. Thank you for doing all you do. Would it be possible to address in the next Q&A if smiling is necessary while singing all songs? I can definitively say yes. We are going to address this in the Q&A. I recently underwent 1 year of professional vocal training, and now I'm doing my own daily exercises without a coach. I'm trying to implement everything I've learned, but one thing I disagree with is if I need to be smiling no matter the song choice. I was told that smiling while singing helps tone, quality, and overall brightness in my voice. I am alto mezzo that has resonance issues. But when I sing anything that isn't a happy song, it just feels wrong. I sing Broadway, power ballads, powerhouse vocals, soul, etc., and if I don't feel the emotions of the songs, I cannot perform. So being reminded in my head to smile so I sound better is hindering my ability to feel the music. What is your take on smiling while singing? Thank you so much. So the big toothy smile that vocal teachers like myself sometimes ask folks to use is a way of getting the soft tissues and the soft palate to lift up, and also, if you notice my cheeks go up quite a lot, to get the cheeks off of the sinus cavities to open up all those resonant spaces. So the short answer to your question is no, you don't have to keep smiling, but if you are struggling with keeping those soft tissues available for resonance while you're singing, then you might have to endure it for a little while longer while you learn the physical experience of lifting those tissues without the benefit of the outward facial expression. So you have to learn to lift the soft palate, which I suppose you can't see my soft palate, but I know I'm lifting it because I can feel those muscles pulling up. And one of the practices you can do to identify those muscles, to get some practice knowing what it feels like, is if you can snort like a pig, that'll give you a bit of a feel of what those muscles feel like, and you can learn to lift that. The outer one that is still visible is lifting of the cheeks. And I'm still, you can see it around my eyes when I lift up the tops of my cheeks to get those sinus cavities to open so that space is available. Once you can learn to do that without the benefit of a big toothy grin, then you needn't pull the corners back and smile in that way. That being said, it's not a bad practice to do the smile technique as it was introduced to me so many years ago, was the smile technique. It's not a bad practice to review it from time to time and make sure that you are, in fact, lifting it in the appropriate fashion. The check is to start with the smile and then sing your exercises just lifting the tissues without the facial expression, and see if the tone quality and performance of your voice is the same. If it's not, keep on practicing. Go back and forth between the two, and it'll get better and better over time. Great question. I think this is our last question now. Was that right? Nope. 2 more. Number 6. Quick question regarding warming up and down with falsetto. Say I'm going to be singing in my upper range using both my head voice and my mixed voice. Would it be helpful to do an entire warm-up like this, but using only falsetto? Or would that not make much of an impact in warming up my head voice and mixed voice? Similarly, if I'm warming down after a very demanding set list, would singing in falsetto help relax the vocal cords? There are a couple different questions in this question. So let's start off with the kind of direct questions that we have here. If you're singing in head voice, mixed voice, should you warm up in falsetto? I would suggest that you warm up using the techniques that you're going to be singing in your repertoire. So if your song is regularly adventuring into the cricothyroid dominant singing voice, then I would warm up like that. On the other hand, when you're warming down, I would make the argument that the point of the warm down is to prepare you for the next day's singing, rather than more of what you did today or something to that effect. And so my warm downs, and quite frankly, the gentle warm-ups too, which you can use those as warm downs if you like. The gentle warm-ups that I do and any warm down that I do will be focused primarily on thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice and descending patterns. The goal will be to regain any focus of the cardinal vowels that may have been lost in what you were doing, performing, and sort of reset the game board, if you will, so that you can relax, get focused, get back in touch with those structures, get some rest, and then begin again tomorrow with a nice, effective approach to your singing voice. Now, there's another kind of question that I am taking from this comment. You haven't specifically asked about this, and so forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn. But the way that you're using the terms, and I use that word term loosely, head voice, mixed voice, and falsetto, would suggest to me that what I would suggest to you is, if you've not come across the term cricothyroid dominant singing voice and what that means versus thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, I would highly recommend you spend a few minutes looking up those terms and coming to an understanding of what it means here in your question. Because in the sort of realm that I practice in and the studies that I do, head voice and mixed voice could be synonymous. They might not be synonymous. A lot of times they're used discreetly, but they're not always used discreetly in the world of singing terminology, as is falsetto. Falsetto is sometimes considered to be synonymous to head voice and synonymous to mixed voice. And yet the physical structure of the way that you are using your voice is different between falsetto and cricothyroid dominant singing voice. And that is the key thing that I would want to impress upon you, so that you understand a bit more about why this isn't necessarily the best way to approach it, and why singing in falsetto in the range that would be your cricothyroid dominant singing voice, or the terms that you're using, head voice, mixed voice, wouldn't be actually a warm down, that it is in fact a higher vocal fold tension practice, even though typically falsetto tone production sung in that range would be very airy and light sounding. You have to in fact tense up the vocal folds quite a bit in order to keep them separated or abducted. And anyways, interesting question. I hope that I have answered that well, but if it needs any clarification, please use the comments below and hopefully we can sort all that out. Last question. Hello, Jeff. Thank you for all your work. It lifts my spirits whenever I do your exercises, which, because of work and other demands, is 4 times weekly, I'd say, for half an hour or so. Is it possible to progress with this routine, do you think? And how does one reach the point where they are competent in that exhilarating but brutal last exercise? My warmest regards, Will. So you'll notice as a practice, I've never announced names because I want to respect the anonymity of the people that are submitting these questions. But if you sign off on it like that, then I will include it. So thank you, Will, for your question. I truly appreciate it. I'm sorry, I did not review where I got this question from, so I don't know the last exercise that you're referring to. But let me answer your question regarding your progress. Yes, you'll make progress if you're keeping a good vocal practice about 4 times a week. If you can get another day in there, even if it's just for a few minutes, that would be fantastic. And that will help things along so that you're moving even a little bit more quickly, perhaps. But in reality, music, full stop, is, in my opinion, a lifetime practice. So maybe right now you're getting 4 days a week, but maybe in a couple years' time, you'll get a few extra days per week, and you'll be really well suited to take advantage of that when that time comes. In the meantime, enjoy the singing that you do. Be patient. It is a practice more than a destination. And thank you for being a part of the channel. Thanks for your question. Thanks for being here. Totally appreciate it. I hope that these answers have helped. If you have any follow-ups or if you have questions about the questions or my answers, please leave your comments in the comments below and I'll help as best I can. Once again, a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. Really appreciate the support. It truly helps. Until next time, thank you so very much. My name is Jeff. Take really good care of your voices, enjoy singing, and hopefully we'll see you again. Bye.